Hello everyone, this is Rick and welcome to an episode on the Mauryan Empire. Now this video has been made in accordance to the Class 6 syllabus of ICSE or CISCE Board. However, it is in more detailed way than what has been prescribed in the syllabus. So if you are a person interested in history, then you can obviously go through this video, or if you are opting for any kind of exams, then this video will help you to understand the Mauryan Empire in a detailed manner. And as always, please carry a notebook with you when you are watching these videos so that you can note down the important points. Also, I would like to emphasize that previously I have made a video on the rise of Magadha. So this Mauryan Empire originates from that video itself. So please go through the other videos in this channel so that you get a context of this discussion. So let's begin. Mauryan. In the introduction to Mauryan Empire, we will see its time range. The Mauryan Empire lasted from 322 to 185 BC, was India's first large-scale empire established by Chandragupta Maurya. So Chandragupta Maurya, we have discussed in our last session that Chandragupta Maurya was the founder of Mauryan dynasty, and he founded it in the year 322 BC, and this was the first proper empire in the Indian subcontinent, marked a new epoch in Indian history, bringing political unity across diverse regions. So, we have seen in our last video that there were approximately 16 Mahajanapadas, means very powerful kingdoms. So, many of those kingdoms were united and brought under the dominion of Chandragupta Maurya. So, this is a time period where, for the first time, political unity was noticed across diverse regions. The empire spanned from Hindu Kush in the northwest to Bengal in the east, and from Himalayas in the north to Narmada in the south. So, what was the span of empire? The border in the west was the Hindu Kush mountains, which is approximately the border of Pakistan and Afghanistan. And also in the northwest, it spread up to the area of Bengal. In the east, it spread up to Bengal, and in the north it started from the Himalayas, went up to Narmada river in the south. Key rulers included Chandragupta Maurya, Bindusara, and Ashok, who contributed significantly to the governance and culture. As we move on in this video, we will read in detail about each one of them. Ashok's adoption of Buddhism and his propagation of Dhamma promoted values of nonviolence and tolerance. So, Ashok was a ruler, a very tolerant ruler who adopted Buddhism and promoted righteousness throughout his kingdom. So, that advocated the principles of nonviolence and tolerance. After Ashok's death, the empire gradually declined, leading to regional fragmentation. So, after the death of Emperor Ashok, there was a decline in the Mauryan Empire, and the empire became fragmented, means it broke into several divisions. Now we will see what are the sources of the Mauryan Empire. To discuss anything, we need to understand where the information came from, and those are the historical sources. Sources are of two types, that is, archaeological, means the materialistic remains of a time period, and literary sources, means the writings of that time. So, we will see what kind of sources are there still in existence of the Mauryan Empire. Indica by Megasthenes, a Greek ethnographer, provides observations on Mauryan society and governance. So, what is an ethnographer? One who observes everything in the present context. So, Indica is a book written by Megasthenes, and that provides a very good information about Mauryan society and governance. Now, Megasthenes was a member of the Greek court of Seleucus. There was a Greek ruler called Seleucus who was a general of Alexander. So after Alexander died, Seleucus became very powerful, and Megasthenes was in the court of Seleucus. Because of some reason which we will discuss later, Megasthenes came to the court of Chandragupta Maurya, stayed here, and wrote about the Mauryan society and governance. Megasthenes served as an ambassador to Chandragupta Maurya's court, documenting its political structure. What was the role of a king? How did the king control the government? How did the king fight wars? All these things were written in great detail by a person named Megasthenes. Arthashastra, attributed to Kautilya, outlines strategies in politics, economy, and military science. So, Arthashastra is a great text in Indian history which gives the strategies of politics, how to govern a state, what are the power dynamics of a state, that is its politics. Economy means how are the finances in the state controlled, and also how to fight wars, that is military science. Everything has been written in Arthashastra. And who was the writer of Arthashastra? Kautilya, who is also called Chanakya. Ashok's inscription, written in Prakrit and engraved in Brahmi, Kharoshti, Greek, and Aramaic, are the primary sources. So, Ashok was the third and the greatest ruler of the Mauryan dynasty. He wrote many pillar inscriptions in throughout the Indian subcontinent, and all his inscriptions were written in languages like Brahmi, Kharoshti, Greek, and Aramaic. So these informations or the writings of Emperor Ashok also act as sources of the Mauryan period. These inscriptions found across the empire detailed Ashok's administration and his Dhamma policies. So, as we have seen that Ashok advocated for peace and non-violence, that was his policy of Dhamma. So, all these things were written in these inscriptions. In 1837, James Prinsep deciphered the Brahmi script, unlocking historical insights from these inscriptions. So, a British historiographer named James Prinsep in 1837 learned how to read Brahmi. He discovered how to read Brahmi because people forgot about this language and no one could read Brahmi. So, James Prinsep discovered or deciphered how to read Brahmi, and thus we come to know a lot about the times of Emperor Ashok. Together, these sources provide a comprehensive view of Mauryan administration, policies, and cultural values. Chandragupta Maurya. He was the founder of the Mauryan dynasty and the first great empire emperor in the Indian subcontinent. So he was the founder of Mauryan dynasty and reigned from 321 to 297 BC, overthrew the Nanda dynasty and unified a large part of India under a centralized rule. So, by the time Chandragupta was born, Nanda dynasty was being governed by a person named Dhanananda, who was very corrupted, and people of his kingdom hated Dhanananda. So, thus, Chandragupta was a very courageous young man, and he had teacher named Chanakya who was very intelligent. So with the help of Chandragupta's bravery and Chanakya's strategy, they both together overthrew the Nanda dynasty and established the Mauryan Empire. Kautilya, his mentor and advisor, played a crucial role in his rise to power. So Kautilya was his teacher and advisor. So Kautilya taught him everything about how to be a good king, and thus Chandragupta became one of the most important personalities in ancient India. Established control from Hindu Kush to Deccan, laying the foundation of the Mauryan Empire. Deccan roughly begins from the Narmada plains. So Deccan Plateau was the southernmost boundary of the Mauryan Empire, and it started in the northwest from the Hindu Kush mountains. Thus, the Mauryan Empire was founded. Engaged in battle with Seleucus I, a successor of Alexander, securing a marriage alliance and territorial gains. So, after the death of Alexander, Seleucus was the successor of Alexander's rule in Central Asia. So, Seleucus was a very powerful ruler, and Chandragupta was just a new king. So it was very much obvious for Seleucus to think that I will defeat Chandragupta easily. But when Seleucus attacked Chandragupta, he was not only defeated, Chandragupta conquered a lot of his territory. The territories like Gandhar were conquered, were regained by Chandragupta Maurya. So thus Seleucus lost the battle, and in return to get a peaceful alliance with Chandragupta, he married off his daughter with Chandragupta Maurya. So Chandragupta married the daughter of Seleucus Nicator, who is also called Seleucus I, introduced an efficient administrative system and structured governance. So Chandragupta was the king who introduced a great administrative system and an efficient government. Chandragupta's rule marked the beginning of an era of prosperity, means where people were very happy, and political unity across India. Next up, we will go through the achievements of Chandragupta. What are the things he achieved during his lifetime? Expanded the Mauryan control from Hindu Kush in the northwest to Bengal in the east. So he expanded the boundary of his rule, and it extended from the Hindu Kush mountains in the northwest to Bengal in the east. Engaged in Seleucid Mauryan War, which was around 305 BC, resulting in peace treaty and marriage alliance. So Seleucid Mauryan War was the war between Chandragupta Maurya and Seleucus Nicator, and that resulted in a peace treaty. Peace treaty means a contract of peace, that I will not fight with you anymore. And also, Chandragupta married the daughter of Seleucus, secured vast territories, and established boundaries for the Mauryan Empire. He secured a lot of territory and established the rule of Mauryan Empire in the Indian subcontinent. He made a gift of 500 elephants to Seleucus I, reinforcing the diplomatic alliance. So Chandragupta, in order to have a very peaceful solution with Seleucus, also gifted Seleucus 500 elephants. Established key administrative centers like Ujjain and Taxila, which became provincial capitals. So he divided his empire into many provinces, and Ujjain and Taxila were other important cities other than Patliputra, which were established by Chandragupta Maurya, and these became capitals of different provinces in his empire. Taxila and Ujjain were positioned strategically on the trade routes connecting Central Asia and India. So these towns did not only act as provincial capitals but also acted as trade markets through which transactions with parts of Central Asia was possible. His achievements laid a stable foundation, enabling future rulers like Bindusar and Ashok to expand father. So it was the policies of Chandragupta Maurya, because of which rulers like Bindusar and Ashok could expand or could dominate the political scenario of Asia. Bindusar. Now, Bindusar was Chandragupta's son and he reigned from 297 to 272 BC, extending the empire's farther south. So, his main achievement was to expand the empire of Mauryans into the southern part of Indian subcontinent. If you remember, I have already said that the border of Chandragupta's empire in the south was only up to the Deccan Plateau. So Bindusar expanded a bit farther into the southern part. His rule expanded Mauryan influence as far as Mysore in southern India. So it was because of the rule of Chandragupta Maurya that the rule of Bindusar that the influence of Mauryan empire extended as far as Mysore in southern India, maintained control over conquered territories, strengthening Mauryan dominance. So, even though Bindusar did not expand the empire much, but still he maintained a very dominant control over what his father had already conquered. Known for his tolerance towards other religions, fostering a period of relative peace. He, even though was a Hindu ruler, but still accepted all other faiths in his state. Unlike his father, he avoided aggressive expansion and focused on consolidating the empire. So he was not in support of aggressive expansion, means expansion of territory by much, but he was a very much good administrator and focused on good governance of the empire. Bindusar's reign witnessed stability and economic growth within the Mauryan territories. His rule laid the groundwork for Ashok's succession and later transformation of the empire. So it was because of the peaceful reign of Bindusar, Ashok could develop the Mauryan Empire further. Now we will see about the most famous ruler of India, that is Emperor Ashok. Ashok, Bindusar's son, ruled from 273 to 300 to 232 BC. So 273 to 232 BC was the time period of Ashok's reign, marking the peak of Mauryan Empire. Means it was during this time that Mauryan Empire was in its highest form. Initially expanded territories aggressively, but later renounced war after the Kalinga conflict. So, in the beginning, Ashok was a very violent and aggressive ruler. So, he expanded his territory very much aggressively, but later on, he cooled down and became a peaceful ruler after the Kaling conflict. Now, what was the Kaling conflict? That we will discuss later. Known for adopting Buddhism and implementing policies promoting non-violence, which is Dhamma. So later on, after the Kaling War, he adopted a peaceful policy and he was already a Buddhist from before the Kaling War. Therefore, he uh, implemented the policies of non-violence, and that policy is called Dhamma. Ashok's reign is extensively documented in his rock and pillar edicts across India. So, in many places around the Indian subcontinent, he wrote down his thoughts of how an ideal king or an ideal empire should be, how the people should live, what kind of moral disciplines the people of the world should follow. So all these things have been written in rock and pillar, which are called Ashokan edicts. So those things serves as the source of Ashokan history. These edicts were inscribed in multiple languages including Prakrit, Greek and Aramaic. So Greek, Aramaic, and Prakrit were the languages in which he wrote all these things so that every kind of people could understand them. His governance emphasized ethical treatment, religious tolerance, and welfare of all subjects. So his governance was based on proper moral discipline, and there was also religious tolerance. He accepted all kinds of religious faith, and also he did a lot for the welfare of his people. That is why Emperor Ashok is considered to be a role model by many rulers. Now, what was the conquest of Kaling? If you remember, I have already said that Ashok was a very violent ruler in the beginning of his reign, but later on he cooled down. Why did he cool down? Because of the war he fought in Kalinga. Kaling War was fought under Ashok's reign, resulting in Mauryan control over Kaling. So, Kaling is a territory which has a strategic location. It connected the trade routes from South India to Southeast Asia. So, countries or kingdoms like Java, Sumatra, all these territories on the other side of Bay of Bengal were connected to India with the help of a territory called Kaling. And the modern day Kaling is situated in parts of Odisha. So, from Odisha, there was a contact with Southeast Asia, means areas of Java and Sumatra, and this used to happen with the maritime routes, means with the sea route. People used to do business with the sea route. So this part of India was very rich because they had a thriving business economy. Hence Ashok wanted to conquer this territory for its riches. The war caused massive suffering, leading Ashok to embrace non-violence and Buddhism. In many texts it has been written that Buddhism was adapted by Ashok because of his change in heart after Kaling War, but modern research shows that Ashok was already a Buddhist before the Kaling War. However, unfortunately, ICSE has not updated its syllabus. Therefore, we still read the fact that Ashok adopted Buddhism after Kaling War, which may not be the entire truth. So, war caused massive suffering. Because of this war in Kaling, many people died and many people were injured. And when Ashok saw all this, he decided that I will never fight any war after this. So he embraced the policy of non-violence. Ashok abandoned aggressive expansion, choosing cultural and religious diplomacy instead. So he wanted to conquer the world with violence, but after the Kaling War, he wanted to conquer the world with the help of peace. And what were the agents of peace? Culture and religious diplomacy. Following the war, he adopted the title of Dhamma Ashok to symbolize his shift to peace. So he wanted the people to know that he had become a very dharmic ruler, means a very righteous ruler. So he adopted the title Dhamma Ashok. Now, Dhamma and Dharma are same things. Dhamma is in Pali language. In Pali language, Dharma is pronounced as Dhamma. That is why we learn about Ashokan Dhamma, but it is actually Dharma. And what is Dharma? Dharma does not mean religion. Dharma means righteousness. This event marked the turning point leading to Ashok's propagation of Dhamma. Now, what is Ashokan Dhamma? We will read his Dhammic policies in detail. Ashok's Dhamma, rooted in Buddhist principles, emphasized moral and ethical values. So, Dhamma was basically rooted in Buddhist principle. Now, Dhamma is a Pali term of Dharma, and Dharma should not be misunderstood with religion. Dharma does not mean religion, it means righteousness, doing what is right, and that can be attributed to any religious principles. Dhamma was a code of conduct promoting kindness, honesty, and social welfare. So, if you are promoting kindness, if you are honest in your life, and if you are thinking about good of the society by doing many kinds of social welfare activities, then you are following the policy of Dhamma. Hence, you are dharmic. Hence, you are righteous. Ashok's Dhamma included nonviolence, respect for all life, and religious tolerance. So, what was the basis of this Dhammic principle? Nonviolence means we will not hurt anyone and we will respect every form of life, and also we will accept every kind of faith. His teachings were not strictly Buddhist, they aimed to create social harmony. So he wanted people to have a harmonious life by mixing with each other. Hence, his policy was not totally adhered to Buddhism, but he followed social harmony. Key principles included obedience to elders, human treatment of animals, and truthfulness. So, how can you become dharmic in the society? You will have to obey your elders, you will have to respect your elders, you will have to treat animals with respect, and also you will have to be honest and truthful. Ashok's inscriptions urged people to live with compassion and humility. You will have to be humble and you will have to be compassionate towards others, which was written by Ashok in most of his inscriptions. Now, propagation of Dhamma. How did he spread his ideas of Dhamma throughout the world at that point of time? So, propagation basically means spreading a message. Now, Ashok used inscriptions on rocks and pillars to spread the Dhamma across his empire. So, across his empire, he wrote down his thoughts or the dharmic principles in rocks, which stayed for a long time and which could be read by people. So, that was one way through which he spread the message. One thing to be noted is that all the people in India were educated. Everyone knew how to read and write. That is why Ashok could write all these things anywhere around his empire, expecting that the people would read it and learn something from it. So he sent missionaries, including his son Mahendra and daughter Sanghamitra, to Sri Lanka. So he sent his own son Mahendra and daughter Sanghamitra as ambassadors of his thought to other countries or other kingdoms like Sri Lanka. He appointed Dhamma Mahamattas to promote ethical behavior and oversee welfare programs. So there were officials, there were officers who used to visit different portions of his empire and see whether people are living righteously or not. And those officers were called Dhamma Mahamatras. Organized the third Buddhist council at Patliputra to standardize the Buddhist teachings. So his main achievement was to organize the third Buddhist council. Buddhist council is a place where all the interpreters of Buddhism or all the great people in the philosophy of Buddhism used to come and sit together. They used to have different discussions and debates, and they used to decide what is best for the society. So that is a Buddhist council. So for the third time, Buddhist council was organized by Emperor Ashok. He built rest houses, planted trees, and dug wells along trade routes for travelers' welfare. So, for the wellness or for the benefit of the travelers, he built rest houses, means where people could rest. He planted trees so that people could rest in the shade, and also dug wells so that water was never scarce in his kingdoms. And all this he did for the welfare of his people. His inscriptions in different languages allowed messages to reach diverse communities. So he did not, we know that even today India is a land of diversity. Our languages changes in every 200 kilometers. So every 200 kilometers you travel in India, you will see there is a vast change in language and culture. So Ashok understood this. Hence, in different parts of the country, he wrote his thoughts in that language of that particular part so that people could understand it. Ashok's place in history. Why is Ashok respected so much in Indian history? Ashok is remembered as a visionary who prioritized peace, welfare, and tolerance. So his first priority was peace. He thought about the welfare of people and he accepted all kinds of faith in the society. His Dhamma based politics set a precedent for compassionate governance. So, all his policies based on righteousness was a step forward into compassionate governance. Governance means uh, managing people with the help of kindness. Ashok promoted religious tolerance, respecting diverse beliefs across his empire. So, Ashok promoted religious tolerance, means he respected the different kinds of faith across his empire. He undertook welfare projects, building roads, wells, and rest houses for travelers. So, he undertook different kinds of projects which would benefit the society, and that meant he used to build roads, he used to build wells, and also rest houses for the common people. Ashok's inscriptions are significant historical records revealing insights into the Mauryan administration. Now we will read about the administration in the Mauryan Empire, beginning with the most important and the powerful person, that is the king, and who used to help the king, his ministers. So the Mauryan administration was highly organized with king as the supreme authority. So king was the head of the empire, and with the help of this kind of governance structure, Mauryan administration was organized. The king was assisted by a council of ministers known as Mantri Parishad for governance. So, council of ministers basically mean a group of ministers who used to help the king in order to govern the kingdom. So, that council of ministers, just like we know cabinet today, the cabinet in the ancient period was the Mantri Parishad. Key ministers included Amatya, which is minister, Mahamatya, which is senior official, and who handled various departments. So, just like we have finance minister today, defense minister, foreign minister, in those times also different departments were handled by different kind of ministers, and those were the senior officials or the Mahamatyas, and Amatyas were under them. Officials like adhyakshas, who were the superintendents, managed specific administrative functions. So, just like you will see when a road is being constructed, there will be a supervisor. There will be a supervisor in every kind of projects by the government. So, those supervisors were the adhyakshas, who were the superintendents whose sole duty was to manage a specific administrative role. The Sannidhata, or the treasurer, was responsible for managing state finances and resources. So, you know what is auditing? Auditing means keeping an account of the expenditures. What are the sectors in which you are spending money? What are the sectors from which you are earning money? So, these things were handled by the Sannidhata, who used to audit everything, and he was the treasurer, means who used to keep an account of how much money is going and coming out of the empire. There was a robust intelligence network of spies to keep the king informed about regional affairs. So the king used to have every kind of information regarding who is planning what, and who is conspiring against the king, who is discussing what kind of thing with other ministers. So all these informations the king used to get with the help of spies. Administration, provinces and army. So in this part of administration we will discuss about the various provinces and how was the military in the Mauryan times. The Mauryan Empire was divided into five main provinces for efficient administration. So the whole empire was divided into five main parts, and that is how there was an efficient administrative system. Each province was overseen by a governor or viceroy, often a member of royal family. So each of these provinces had the head, and that head was the governor or viceroy. And these governors or viceroys were most of the time members of royal family. Villages were smallest administrative units. So what were the smallest administrative units? Villages. And it was managed by an officer called Gramika and Ayukta. So Gramikas and Ayuktas were the people who were heads of villages. Local governance involved village councils which managed daily affairs and local disputes. So village also had their own council, means important people or powerful people in the village used to come together and discuss things. So local governance of what kind of things would be done on a local level, those things were decided by the village assembly or the village council. They also handled every kind of problem. Suppose one person is having a quarrel with some other person, so those kind of local disputes were also managed by the village councils. The army was large and well organized, comprising infantry, cavalry, elephants, and chariots. So, Mauryans had the largest army in ancient India, and it was very well disciplined and organized. They had infantry. Infantry means foot soldiers. Cavalry means soldiers who used to ride horses. Elephants, we can understand, fighting war with the help of elephants. You can see on the image in the left hand side. And also there were chariots means wheeled carriages which were drawn by horses. Mauryan military also maintained a navy to safeguard coastal regions and trade routes. So it was not only about fighting war on land, they also had a navy. Navy men means people who used to ride on boats and used to control the sea or used to provide security in the sea. So Mauryan military also had a navy. Economy, taxes, and agriculture. How was the money system in Mauryan Empire? Now, money can be obtained only with the help of taxes. Taxes means when people offers a share of their riches to the government in order to get protection. So, how did the taxation system function during the Mauryan times? The Mauryan economy was supported by a sophisticated tax system to fund the state and the army. Mauryans had a standing army, and that standing army needed a lot of funding to maintain. Maintenance of army is a very costly affair because you need to give food to the soldiers, and also you need to pay the soldiers. So all these things were supported by a very sophisticated tax system. So they used to earn money from the tax and they used to spend it in the welfare of the state and maintaining the army. Taxes were collected from land, trade, forest, minerals, and manufacturing. So, taxes you had to give tax if you have land. You had to give tax if you are a trader or a businessman. If you have forest under your control, then also from the forest state will acquire a bit of resources. Minerals means what you get from under the soil, iron and coal, copper, all these things were also taxed. And also if you make something, then also you will have to pay tax to the government. The Arthashastra mentions land taxes often paid in crops or livestock as a primary source of revenue. So people did not have money all the time, but they had the produce. Means a farmer can pay money to the government, or the farmer can also pay a bit of produce. Suppose there is a rice farmer. So after rice has been harvested, 2 or 3 bags or a portion, 1/10 or 2/5 of the whole production used to be given to the state as a tax. Adhyakshas supervised tax collection and monitored economic activities. So, who used to see if everyone is paying tax or not? That duty was given to Adhyakshas, who supervised the tax collection, who collected tax from the people and gave it to the emperor. Agriculture was the backbone of the economy, with irrigation systems developed to support farming. So, agriculture was the main job that every person in the Mauryan times did. Hence, it was the main thing in economy. And how did agriculture happen? With irrigation systems. Irrigation system is a system through which water is brought to dry lands in order to have good farming produce. So irrigation systems were there during the Mauryan times, means digging up of channels from the rivers in order to give water to dry land. Pushyagupta, a Mauryan governor, built a dam at Girnar to aid in irrigation. So these kind of irrigation activities used to happen, and one such evidence is that a man named Pushyagupta, who was a Mauryan governor, he built a dam in a place called Girnar, and with the help of this dam, irrigation was possible in the area. So we come to know how Mauryans collected tax and how they helped in proper agriculture. Economy, trade, and currency. So, what kind of trading activities were done, and how did the currency function? Both internal and external trade flourished under the Mauryan rule, connecting India to Greece, Egypt, and Sri Lanka. So, internal trade means trade within the kingdom. Suppose you are selling something in the kingdom, but in a different city. So, that is internal trade. However, international trade means trade with other part of the world which was not under Mauryan rule. So, international trade also used to happen, and India had trading relationships with Greece, Egypt, and Sri Lanka. The Mauryans traded in goods like textiles, spices, precious stones, and exotic animals. So, what are the things which Mauryans bought or sold to other people? The first and most important thing is textile, which means cloth. Spices, India is a land of spices, and India used to sell, the Mauryans used to take that opportunity and sell spices to other people. There were special stones which were given by the Mauryans and traded with the help of it with the other part of the world like Egypt and Sri Lanka. Exotic animals means beautiful and rare animals also used to be bought or sold during these times. Currency in form of punch marked coins facilitated trade and commerce. So currency means coins. How did the money look like? Money was in the form of punched marked coins. Punch marked coins is a specific type of coins where molten silver is used, and when the silver is almost drying, that means when it is becoming tough At that point of time, it used to be stamped with a seal, and that process of stamping is also called punching. Hence, a mark used to be given in a silver piece with the help of stamping or punching. Therefore, it is called punch marked coins, and all the transactions used to happen with the help of these punched marked coins. Trade routes means what were the routes in which goods used to be exchanged. So trade routes connected India's interiors with Central Asia. So Central Asia was in very much communication with interior portion of India, and that enhanced economic interactions. Royal lands were utilized for resource extraction and trade related activities. So lands belonging to the king, which is the royal land, those kind of lands were also used for extraction of resources. The Mauryan administration's control over resources and trade created economic stability. So it was because of the good control over resources like coal, iron, copper, all these things, that the Mauryans could do very good business and trade properly. Now, stupas. We will discuss about the art and architecture of the Mauryans, beginning with the stupas. The Mauryan period saw the construction of stupas symbolizing Buddhist beliefs and commemorating important sites. So, important sites related to Buddhism were decorated with stupas. Great Stupa at Sanchi in Madhya Pradesh is a hemispherical structure with relics of Buddha. So there is a very great stupa which was constructed by Ashok in Madhya Pradesh, and it is in a place called Sanchi. This is a hemispherical structure and it has relics of Buddha, means remaining of Buddha. Ashok commissioned numerous stupas across his empire, reflecting his dedication to Buddhism. So, Ashok was very much in favor of Buddhism, and that can be understood from the stupas he built across his empire. Stupas typically included dome or chhatra. Dome means a hemispherical structure, which is called chhatra in local language, and that symbolized the high rank of Buddha's teachings. And it was constructed as a status symbol, giving high respect to the teachings of Buddha. The stupa at Sanchi has beautifully carved gateways with stories from Buddha's life. So, just like in comics, you see pictures and you get a story, the stupa in Sanchi has gates like that where sculptures are made with the help of pictures. So, those pictures depict stories of Buddha's life. So, that is how stupas were significant when Ashok was the Mauryan emperor. Now we will discuss about the caves and pillars. What are the importance of caves and pillars in the context of Mauryan architecture? Ashok and his successors built caves and monolithic pillars across empire. So Ashok and later on different other rulers also built different caves, means they dug on the rock and made different kinds of artistic things, and that was called cave architecture. And also along with that, he made designs on monolithic pillars. Monolithic pillars means a pillar which is made out of one rock only, so monolithic. Mono means one and lithic means rock. So pillar made out of one rock is called a monolithic pillar. The Barabar caves in Bihar are among the oldest surviving rock cut structures from the Mauryan era. So Barabar caves is a place in Bihar where you can see how Ashok made beautiful cave architecture by digging into the Barabar hills, and that is one of the oldest rock cut structure in ancient India. These caves, including the Sudama cave, were dedicated to Buddhist and Ajivika monks for meditation. So, Ajivika is a faith system, and there were monks from Buddhist and Ajivika faith whom Ashok respected very much, and he built these caves for them so that they could get inside and meditate peacefully. Ashok's pillars, such as the famous lion capital at Sarnath, are masterpieces of Mauryan art. So, lion capital, the four-headed lion emblem that you get in your coins, or which is the emblem of the government of India, is from the topmost part of the Sarnath pillar, which is also called the lion capital. The pillars were inscribed with Ashoka's edicts promoting Dhamma and ethical conduct. So these pillars have been inscribed with thoughts of Ashok or writings of Ashok which promote Dhamma and moral discipline. The Sarnath lion capital with four lions became the India's national emblem. So current national emblem of our country is the Sarnath lion capital, which has four lions in four directions. Decline of the Mauryan Empire. Now, Empire was very powerful. How did it finish? The Mauryan Empire gradually weakened after Ashok's death with leadership struggles. So, after Ashok, there were almost no good rulers. So, the leadership capability of the empire was diminished. Hence, the empire became weak. Ashok's successors were seen as weak and lacked his administrative abilities. So the rulers who came after Ashok, they were very weak and they did not have administrative capabilities like Emperor Ashok. The vastness of empire made it difficult to control distant regions effectively. So because the empire was very big in those times without any kind of connection, it was very difficult to control all the portions of empire. So the size of the empire was also a reason behind its decline. Provincial governors gained autonomy, leading to fragmentation and loss of central power. So, the provincial governors means the governors are of the provinces. We have discussed that during the time of Chandragupta Maurya, the Mauryan Empire was divided into five provinces. So later on, those provinces had their own governors and they became very powerful. They did not even listen to the king. So they established their own kingdoms. High administrative cost, including the maintenance of large army, strained resources. So the money was limited, but army was very big, and it was very big and costly empire. So it was very difficult to maintain the empire with the money they had. External invasions and internal rebellions further destabilized the empire. So there were attacks from outside and from inside. People did not like the Mauryans as they did during the time of Chandragupta or Ashok. So external invasions and internal rebellions weakened the empire. By 185 BC, the last Mauryan ruler was overthrown, marking the end of the empire. So, by 185 BC, the last Mauryan ruler was killed off by a person named Pushyamitra Sunga, and that was the end of Mauryan Empire. Now we will go through important question and answers which you should learn and remember because they may be important to you in exams. So, who established the Mauryan Empire and when was it founded? Chandragupta Maurya established the Mauryan Empire in 322 BC. What is the significance of the Mauryan Empire in Indian history? The Mauryan Empire was the first empire to unify most of India, marking a new epoch in country's political history. Who was Megasthenes and what did he contribute to the Mauryan history? Megasthenes was a Greek ambassador and ethnographer at Chandragupta's court who wrote Indica, documenting Mauryan society. What is Arthashastra and who authored it? Arthashastra is a political treatise on statecraft, economics, and military strategies, written by Kautilya, also known as Chanakya. How did Ashok promote the idea of Dhamma in his empire? Ashok inscribed principles of Dhamma on rock edicts across India, promoting values of nonviolence, kindness, and social welfare. Describe the purpose of Ashoka's rock edicts. The rock edicts were used to communicate Ashok's moral and ethical codes to his subjects, spreading the message of Dhamma. What change in Ashok's life occurred after the Kalinga War? Ashok embraced Buddhism and became a proponent of non-violence and compassion after witnessing the destruction caused by the Kalinga War. What were the main sources of information about the Mauryan period? The main sources include Indica by Megasthenes, Arthashastra by Chanakya, and Ashok's rock and pillar edicts. What role did Chanakya play in the Mauryan Empire? Chanakya was Chandragupta's advisor and strategist, helping establish the Mauryan Empire and authoring the Arthashastra. How did Ashok's policies differ from those of his predecessors? Unlike previous rulers, Ashok focused on ethical governance and welfare of his people, emphasizing peace and morality. What does the title Chakravartin mean, often associated with Ashok? The title Chakravartin means a universal ruler who rules ethically and morally as exemplified by Ashok. Why was the Kalinga War a turning point for Ashok? The brutality of Kalinga War led Ashok to adopt Buddhism and pursue policies of non-violence and moral reform. What was the extent of Mauryan Empire at its height? The Mauryan Empire stretched from Hindu Kush in the northwest to Bengal in the east and southwards to the Deccan. How did the Mauryan Empire manage such vast territory? The empire was divided into provinces governed by royal appointees with an organized system of administration and taxation. What was the impact of the Mauryan Empire on Indian civilization? The Mauryan Empire unified India, introduced efficient governance, promoted Buddhism, and laid foundations for future empires. So that was all about the Mauryan Empire. This was a long video, but if you have seen it, you will not have any doubts. However, if you have any doubts, then you can obviously message it in comments and I will try my best to answer them. So please follow me for such educational content. Thank you so much for your love and support.